in our community, someone will post something in our help please channel, the context, the problem I'm facing, they will get between 3 and 5 high quality responses within like a couple of hours. We personally meet and do reject a lot of people from the community, which is super hard because we're early stage. We will facilitate like speed dating style connections on that call, which are heavily curated beforehand as well. That's proper secret sauce then. It's actually
Okay.
right. And how we do that as well. So for a company that is all about transparency, there are still a couple of things that we keep close to the chest. There are a few folks that want to pay for it annual, but we encourage folks to pay monthly.
That seems like counterintuitive.
So we wanted like a really short feedback loop, and like monthly churn is like probably the shortest feedback loop we could have gone for. I think pricing should, in nearly all things, reflect the frequency of the value that you're getting. So like it keeps us honest, because a lot of our value prop is like we promise monthly things to happen.
Everybody that I've talked to on this podcast says that you should charge like an annual subscription fee or a quarterly subscription fee, because otherwise you will end up dealing with a churn problem.
I understand that, but I think it's better to do it my way. That kind of feedback loop, it kind of builds trust, makes you accountable, and ensures you are building a great product. Slack's not really a community tool. It's like shit. We looked at all of the incumbents, and we looked at all of the scrappy, even the stealth ones, and we just kept coming back to this thing, which was like our audience, they are in Slack already. So it's like the friction there is just zero. It's zero. We revisited that decision 4 times in the last 4 or 5 months. And still Slack wins.
Paint me a picture of something that might have happened in the World of Warcraft community, and like how you are recreating in your very professional people ops.
There's too many. That's too hard a question. I'll try. No, I'll try. So, two things. So one is micro, one is macro. So micro, in World of Warcraft, my wife's going to see this and she'll be like, "You giant nerd! I can't believe you said this in public."
Welcome to Beginner Maps, where we interview operators of top community businesses so that you can replicate the best of what these community builders have already figured out. Today, I am thrilled to have John Faulkner-Willcocks with me. John is the co-founder of OpenOrg, which is a membership community for people and culture builders. John and his partner have scaled this community to more than 250 paying members in less than 6 months. That is crazy. There are very few people who I've seen who have done this thing with their paid community memberships. So that's why I had to invite him to unpack his magic sauce on this podcast. Welcome to the show, John.
Thanks, Nitesh. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Now, up until yesterday, the thing that I was most curious to learn from you was how you have scaled this community to more than 250 members. But while doing the research on this podcast, I came across something even more interesting, which is you are executing, you are like a beast with execution, and you're in so many different things. Like you're doing everything from I see we're both in this community called Ramen Club, and I was on the Shift channel for that community, and I saw that one day you might be working on a blog post, the other day you might be working on that along with doing some business development calls, talking to VCs. You're building, doing database stuff, working on the coding side of things, building a side project, launching a hit Gumroad product. Like you're in everything, and you're just a beast with execution. So tell me, John, what do you do with Open? What are your areas of responsibilities here?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, to be honest, my co-founder and I, we do split things up, but we also kind of overlap on basically everything as well. So it's kind of hard to answer, but yeah. So I lead like the product side of our SaaS product, which is called PeopleMetrics.fyi, which is a benchmarking product for startup people leaders. Basically, helps them kind of get market context on their 19 core people and talent metrics. So I do all things kind of like engineering, design, customer support, and also business development on that. And then on the community side of things, so our paid membership community, Adam, my co-founder, and I, we split basically 50-50 on all responsibilities. So ops facilitation, hackathon facilitation, roundtable facilitation. And then on the kind of the consulting side of our business as well, where we basically take time every month. We have like a service where people and culture leaders can kind of buy coaching time with Adam and I. We do that together as well. And then Adam mostly focuses on sort of LinkedIn. So whilst I've got the kind of product piece, and we split responsibilities in the community and the coaching and consulting. Adam mainly focuses on kind of brand and audience development. So sorry about dog just then. Yeah, so he's our man on the ground when it comes to LinkedIn. He's absolutely unstoppable and fearless on that platform. So I don't do as much there, but I try and make up for it with kind of slightly more long-term content pieces. So I like run our blog and on our various newsletters.
I love this. And as somebody who is like a very young SaaS founder who's trying to do things and often failing to do things that I set out to do, like you are my inspiration, man. Like I want to be executing at a place where I can say that, I have done all of these things in one single week. And yeah, that's why I just want to know, like, what is your process? Or first, can we see, like, can I get like be in your office for 5 minutes and you share your screen and show me like the tools that you're in all day long?
I don't know what to show you really, but yeah, we have our community Slack, Adam and I Slack,
Yeah.
the other communities that I'm in there quite a lot, obviously. Then yeah, over here we got kind of OpenOrg piece, the newsletter stuff, marketing site, kind of doing some guest posts at the moment, people metrics, got the code base, so I flick into there quite a lot. And yeah, where else can we go? And then yeah, this is kind of some client work and some automation stuff over here. So yeah, that's my flicking around.
And how are you managing your to-dos, like the things, all the different things that you're in?
But to do we have a shared journal channel in Slack.
Okay.
So we treat just the two of us. We basically try and be as like any thought that happens in the head happens in Slack, which wouldn't necessarily suit everyone, but it suits both of us quite well. And we have like a running journal like channel that we keep updated. So we put our sort of like 10, 15 goals that we want to achieve individually in there, and then we kind of just chalk it up with emojis. So we don't actually use like a fancy like product or app. Actually, it's mostly handled there.
Yeah.
And then Notion is like our kind of back end for a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's us.
Right. And yeah, I wanted to know about, like, dig into the how you're managing stuff and to-dos, because I feel like I'm overcomplicating things.
Yeah, we're definitely not very structured actually when it comes to that. We have, I mean, it's very, very clear what we need to do. Like our prioritization is like very simple because we're kind of still in that space of trying to, yeah, our ramen profitability numbers like around 10K a month, like across us. And so we like anything that doesn't really kind of drive towards that or protect that is just like a do later pile. And we're also a bit old school, so yeah, it's just like that, really. Nothing fancy as well.
Nice. Okay, so you use sticky notes.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I might have to. Yeah, I'm just trying to soak up, like, I want to be you. Like, this is what I want. Like, I want to do like all the things, because as a two-person shop, like you have to, like dig into the design and database, or like the coding stuff one day, and the next day you also have to figure out the marketing and get more customers. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing we tried recently, because I'm really bad at context switching. Like I'm ADHD, classic ADHD. So I can do it, but what I can't do is like mix the manager schedule and the maker schedule. Like manager schedules like calls, 30-minute calls the entire day. I can't do like a morning of that and then an afternoon deep work block for coding. Like my brain just cannot do that. So what we ended up doing, and my co-founder is kind of different. He can do that really seamlessly. Like if he's got a 45-minute block, and go straight into like a flow state. So what we ended up doing was we just have all of our community like onboarding calls and like any kind of client side stuff, business development calls. We just block it and fix it on 2 days a week. So we have two, in my opinion, hellish days sometimes. It's like 12, 15 calls with the different time zones that we operate in. But then we have 3 days a week where it's completely meeting free. So that's like one little maybe hack. I don't know.
No, yeah, this is interesting. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to, like, I try to schedule all my meetings in the last 3 hours of my day usually. So that gives me like 5 hours of deep work every day. Like, yeah, chunk. And I think I'm trying to do something similar. So it's interesting. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I just I had to start here because I try to lead these podcast recordings with curiosity, and this is what I really like. This was like the top of my list in the curiosity items of things that I had to ask John.
Oh, thanks. Like, as I'm not sure I set a particularly good example, honestly, because we're like, yeah, it feels like we're on fire most of the time. So yeah, we're just running around like crazy people, but yeah, we enjoy it.
But it's working. You're getting like you're moving ahead, and yeah, I admire that. And it's what I want to be as well. So okay, now let me start with the real like the questions that I sent you
Cool.
yesterday about
That's all right.
community and OpenOrg. So tell me about OpenOrg. How would you describe the people who are joining the community?
Sure. So we're the member network community and culture design partner for like busy startup people teams. So people and culture leaders, and we're kind of what you find is in that space at the moment, there's kind of like this big pushback against traditional like HR approaches and processes. And then there's this exciting group of people who want to do things very, very, very differently in that world. And that's kind of the exact person that we love to work with and that kind of enjoy what we're doing. And they tend to have a real focus on this one thing, which is that transparency is really good for business. And that's quite a niche like mindset. But that is what we are about. So we think transparency is basically the best way to build trust internally in a company and also externally in a company with future talent, future customers, future investors. And so we find like that is our entire audience is really specific startup people and culture leaders who also subscribe to that like mindset and way of working. So that's who's in our community.
And how many people are in the community?
So we're yeah just under, you said 250. We're just under 250 on the
Okay.
what we call individual memberships, but we also have kind of more of a like a slightly more embedded membership model as well, which is a new sort of service that we provide, which is basically more one-to-one time with Adam and I to help co-create, co-build, sometimes co-facilitate people and culture projects and problems within their startups themselves. So it's kind of two tiers, combined
Hmm.
numbers just north of 250.
Nice. And when did you start this?
Good question. I think we're month nine, I think, month 10.
Okay.
Not the community,
Hmm.
the business, the
Hmm.
community. I think we're month 4 or 5. I'd have to check.
Wow. Okay. So month 4 and 5 and more than 250 members, which is crazy. Okay. And as an outsider, like I feel that there are a lot of free communities or communities for HR and people leaders out
Yeah.
there created by the big companies. And you're obviously still able to get like one type of a segment of those people in your community and paying for your membership. So
Yeah.
what do these people tell you? Like, why are they in your community rather than those free communities?
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting question. I think there's a few things, and I should preface this with, so I've been a member of those kinds of communities myself, basically since community became a thing. And actually prior to that was in World of Warcraft guilds, which is where I learned all of my community design kind of chops, if you like. So that's another story though. But
Mhm.
the thing I learned when I was trying to get what I wanted from those communities back in the day were basically a, a bunch of I learned a bunch of things I really liked and a bunch of things I really, really didn't like. And that's what we took into the kind of the blueprint for OpenOrg's community. And those things I didn't like, because we kind of designed it in. They're also the things that people tell us makes us a little bit more special. So a few examples. Um, One would be most of the company sponsored communities in the people in HR space will be like huge, massive Slack groups. There'll be like 10, 12, 15,000 plus members. So not, when you build on Slack, you're already from a tooling and a process point of view at a handicap because it's not really designed for community. You have to work super hard to make it brilliant. And those companies, I don't think have really acknowledged that. And so what happens is it just creates like another news feed. So it's not really kind of a community, it just creates a news feed. So the thing people love about ours is we are intentionally capped and we will remain capped at 500 members, which from a revenue and a growth point of view, people look at us and go, what are you doing? But that's one thing people like. So everybody kind of knows everyone in ours. Like people can really connect with folks. So that's one thing. The second thing is, and we worked really hard at this, the speed and quality of response to help requests. So one of the core like pillars of our value proposition for members is that, and this is especially important for people and culture leaders in startups and scale ups, because very often they're on their own or in a small team and they don't really have anybody else that they can safely bounce an idea or a problem off. And they also get a really wide breadth of problems that often they don't have any experience of dealing with and dealing with for the first time. So we over index on the speed and the quality of the response. So in our community, someone at, like, regardless of time zone, will post something in our help please channel, the context, the problem I'm facing. They will get between 3 and 5 high quality responses within like a couple of hours, which is
Wow.
wild.
That
If
is
you compare
wild.
that, if you compare that to the even the big ones with 10, 15,000 members, often it's tumbleweed for a day, 2 days, 3 days, or it's just like one sales pitch, frankly. So that's one thing. The other pillar here would be, so we personally meet and do reject a lot of people from the community, which is super hard because we're early stage, we're still trying to find our feet and whatnot. But people really like that. They meet both Adam and I, and that we do that. They think that that's very different to a lot of communities. I think the best ones all do that, and that was my experience. And the other thing folks really like, well, two more things, and then I'll pause because I've talked for too long. But yeah, the other thing is, because we started actually running as L&D cohorts online, that was actually the birth of the community. Get into that a bit later, maybe. But we took all of that learning and injected it into our onboarding experience. So our onboarding experience is like, it's very personal. It's very intimate. Like I said, Adam and I meet everyone personally, but it kind of doesn't stop there. That principle is like embedded in many, many, many other touch points, and that's quite different. And one example of that is we'll do a welcome call every month for all new people that have joined in that cohort intake, and we will facilitate like speed dating style connections on that call, which are heavily curated beforehand as well. And we'll also kind of coach and share like what the community values are, how you get the most from the community, like where to go, where to find things, all of that stuff. But actually also like what behaviors are like, really kind of important here, how we celebrate that as well. And then the final thing I would say people mention to us is they like our kind of products and tools that we've built that are bespoke to our community. So there's lots of little hacky things that we've built just for members, but they love the hackathons that we run. So hackathons been around in the software world, which is kind of where I come from, for a long, long time, bringing a little bit of that magic and that kind of open source like magic into this space is quite new, and folks love the idea of, every quarter we do an asynchronous like multi-week hackathon. So we'll have a call with 30, 40, 50 volunteers from the community where we'll set like the goal, the mini product we want to build together. And then async, everyone will chip in and we'll go from nothing to kind of resource or product at the end of like a 4 to 6 week period. And then the community together shares that out for free with the rest of the people and culture community. So that you've just got this really lovely like vibe. I don't know how else to describe it, like building together, co-creating, and then like giving that away, giving that out. And so that's quite unique. And I don't mind saying that out loud because I wish more people did that kind of stuff, because it make everything better, I think. But yeah, those are probably the key tenets of what people say, why they come to us and don't go to one of the big, 15,000.
Yeah, I can really see it. I mean, you're like executing in the beast mode, because all of these things are there. I can imagine how time intensive these things are, like getting on calls with everybody who is joining,
Yeah.
like before they've joined the community, organizing these group calls where you're sending, like curating matches for everybody, like not just putting them like randomly in one-on-ones, like you're actually thinking about who should meet who. And then there's the hackathons that you're organizing, and not to mention the Slack community where people are able to get like really high quality responses in a few hours. This is crazy. So you've set the stage, and this is exactly what the rest of this interview will be about. And I think this is your secret to blitz scaling the community to, so such a big group in a matter of a few months. So I'm gonna go through each of these things and dive into them one by one, starting with the onboarding. So tell me about the onboarding call a little bit and what exactly happened. So you mentioned that the the onboarding call is a monthly call where you're inviting everybody who joined that month. And what happens then? Do you like start telling them about the community, show them around? Like, what's the process?
Yeah, no, sure. So we use GatherRound has a free version, and it's a great product for this. And given that our size, it works really really well, and so the price works really well being free. So that's like we set everything up on that. We kind of introduce like the almost the movement side of what we're about, that mindset I was kind of sharing with you earlier. Like transparency is good for business, and like you're playing a part in changing the world. Like the more companies that kind of have folks like this group in early, like that's influencing the broader kind of piece. So we do quite a lot on that just to kind of like contextualize it and get into that. We do some polls just to kind of take the social awkwardness out of the speed dating bit that's coming up in a moment, which we find is useful. So it's just like quick speed lightning polls on like context, problems people are trying to solve, and that like creates instant connection without having done any speaking or awkward speed dating yet. And I'm incredibly social awkward in group settings, so I do that for me more than more than anyone else. But people kind of like that. And behind the scenes, Adam and I we've done quite a few pieces to also really understand like what people are looking to get from this and what they're struggling with. And so we've kind of got that as a almost little mini database behind the scenes, and that's helping us like think
Wait,
about pairing. And
tell me more
so
about this. I think this is where the magic lies. So I want to dig in. Tell me
so
about this
so
database that you have. Yeah.
because we've so when we meet folks, like we're all, for the first time, we just note down like what they're kind of what their top of mind problems and projects are. Also, to just before you get onto that call with us as well, we've got just a very very simple type form which just checks like a few things, are you comfortable with Slack, or not. If they're not, actually that's a little bit of a flag for us, because we actually try and scare them off on the onboarding, on the welcome call, which happens before onboarding, because people that don't know how to thread and use custom emojis of a noise, or they're kind of not maybe going to be quite the right fit. So we do that, but we also collect, we understand their position and stance on transparency, which is like our core mindset thing. So people that really buy into that, that's kind of a prioritization. People that don't, that's scary, try and almost scare away, because it might not be quite the right vibe. But we're also kind of understanding, projects and problems that they're facing. And the reason why we do that is so that we can understand their company context. So if someone's from a not-for-profit versus a startup, if someone's from a scale-up versus a 10-person business, if someone's all of that kind of stuff, we are collecting so that we can pair people, but also so that we can, not just on day one, but on day 30, 60, 90, 120. So we do all of that manually currently, and that's happening behind the scenes. So back to the first welcome call. The reason why we do this on that gather round piece that I was talking about is because if you don't do that, there's a very good chance someone just drops into a Slack community and actually doesn't face to face, like you and I are doing right now, meet someone for 30 days. Like, so we were like, well, that's no good. So we front loaded it. So you meet 4 people like on that welcome call, day one. And how we do that, as I was saying, it's after we've explored like and explained the kind of community values. We've explained how we celebrate them in the community. We've got some fun little custom emojis. Each of them has a story behind them, something I'm a big fan of. And then people are put into after we've done all of that, it's less socially awkward. A little bit of speed dating on Gather Round, it does it very very well, and that's matched your first matches, and that happens. And then we tee up like after that what next, and we do this as day one quests, week one quests, and month one quests, which is my like nerdy gamer background, World of Warcraft guild stuff coming through. But people quite like that, because it just gives a little bit more structure. So when you've arrived in Slack, you've got all of that behind you, and so you already feel part of the tribe, as we like to say. So yeah.
Yeah. I love this. Yeah, this is, I think World of Warcraft really, really taught you how to build a great community experience. Really solid stuff. Okay. Now, before like I talk more about the onboarding piece, I also want to talk about how you're getting the customers in, and especially how you got your first 10, first 100 customers when you were starting the community. Tell me about that journey.
Yeah, sure. So we didn't start out to build a community. So we didn't
Mm.
know that that was what we were going to build. We There were quite a few twists and turns to get there. In the interest of time, I'll just do the last twist that got us there. Towards the end of last year, we were running multiple cohorts, so learning experiences, all remote, virtual, for 10, 15 people and culture leaders. So the exact type of person that we love to work with that I was talking to you about earlier. And we were running these in parallel, in one in the US, one for Europe. They were 8 weeks long, 6 to 8 weeks long, depending on the program. And we were running that with just as a single channel for each cohort in Slack, just as a way to like keep the sharing of experiences, the networking, the learning, and the communication from us just in one place, because all of our customers, basically 95% of them, are on Slack for work anyway. So we started doing that, and as we grew more and more and more, people were interested in connecting with other folks, and we were running these. They were quite like a high ticket, so you needed a decent learning and development budget to afford to go on one of these. And we started to notice that as we were kind of sharing what was happening on those on LinkedIn, lots of people were like, I really subscribe to this like idea that you guys have, like, around transparency as like a great way to build a business. But your cohorts and programs, like, they are prohibitively expensive for me to engage with. And so at that point, when we were kind of like, well, we don't want to, have a massive like blocker for people that really get this stuff, and potentially help us build this kind of new status quo in the world of work. And so that was when the first seed of the idea for maybe doubling down on a community as well as the programs. We thought it would be a really nice pairing, actually, because you'd get to kind of do the cross cohort kind of networking piece better, and all of that stuff. So that was when we decided to do it. And so, to answer your question, the how we got our first members, well, it was those first folks that had done the cohorts, done the L&D programs with us, knew us, trusted us, and liked
Right.
and vibed with our mission.
Now your community, I have on your pricing page, and it's a membership that costs, I think, $20, $25 a month,
Yeah,
and it's a month-to-month membership, right?
that's right. We do have there are a few folks that want to pay for it annual, but we encourage folks to pay monthly.
And why is that? Because that seems like counterintuitive.
That's a good question. It was a couple of things. One was we wanted to give people the option to try it out, and if we didn't deliver what we promised, we wanted them to. We didn't want the brand damage, frankly, and we
Mm.
wanted. So there was a reputation bit there. We also weren't really sure if it would work, and so we wanted like a really short feedback loop, and like monthly churn is like probably the shortest feedback loop we could have gone for, and it's the arguably the best one, I think. So we wanted that as well, because we really didn't know if it would work, how it would work. I mean, as I said, we'd seen lots of communities we liked bits of, and then there were huge chunks of that we just really didn't like, and we had a pretty strong idea of like what it could and should be, but ultimately you just don't know until you try. So again, part of it was that de-risking approach, and yeah, part of it was what people wanted, put the two together. That's how we ended up with a monthly model.
Nice. Okay. And now that like it's been 4 or 5 months since you've been running the community, and like, do you feel like you have validated the idea enough that you are comfortable asking people for an annual membership fee, and that might be, even better in terms of revenue for you as a business?
I don't know if this is the right answer, but no, we're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna change that. I really like. I think pricing. This is kind of a meta point, but like, I think pricing should, in nearly all things, reflect the frequency of the value that you're getting.
Mm.
So, like, it keeps us honest, because a lot of our value prop is like we promise monthly things to happen. And we, in fact, daily things to happen, but at the lowest common denominator, we promise monthly things to happen. High quality speakers, high quality roundtables, you know, all of the things I was talking about earlier. And so it's appropriate because of that to charge monthly is how we think about it. But yeah, I think it keeps us honest. So I don't think we're going to change that actually, even though it might be slightly, as you say, slightly better for cash flow perhaps. But no, we're not going to change that.
Okay, this is a unique mindset because everybody that I've talked to on this podcast, yeah, almost everybody just says that when you're building a community, you should charge like an annual subscription fee or a quarterly subscription fee because otherwise you will end up dealing with a churn problem because members are going to be like, I didn't get any value this month and I'm gonna not continue using it, but it might take like a few months for them to realize the value of the community. And that's usually the thinking that people share with me here.
Yeah, no, I think I understand that, but I think I would say like you're not. I would say it's better to do it my way because it keeps you on your toes and it keeps you accountable. And so like yeah, if we had a month where like I don't know we had 10% churn or something horrible, it would force us to look in the mirror and it would force us to make some changes and it would force us to be transparent with the current members and say that this month we had we 10% of folks opted out. The feedback was X, Y, Z. So this is what we're doing about that. I think that kind of feedback loop is really important. That transparency is really important because it kind of builds trust, makes you accountable, and it ensures you are building a great product. And our product in this case is the community. So yeah, it's terrible business advice, probably. I hope it's not bad community advice. I don't know.
No, this is amazing. I love these counterintuitive pieces of advice because it really makes sense. So you're living and breathing the principles that you've got, like the transparency, thing that you have as the core of your community. Like you're embodying that in how you're structuring the business as well, and that is something really admirable.
Well, I mean, it might all come crashing down around me, but it's working okay. We're 1.5% churn, so
Wow.
pretty happy with that so far.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really low, and congratulations for that. Okay, now back to the onboarding piece. So you've got the onboarding call and like the monthly cohort onboarding call. Now tell me about the one-on-one calls that you do before you basically select a member for membership. What are you trying to learn about the member on that call? Or to put it differently, who do you reject on that call?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And yeah, just to structure it as well. So we've got one-to-one welcome call, sort of stage one. Stage two is pre-onboarding and onboarding group welcome call. And then beyond that, it's kind of the quests make up the rest of the onboarding. So back to the first bit to answer your question. So the welcome call, how we reject or vet or get a really good kind of signal on whether someone's going to be like right for the community. There's a few things that go into that. So, and it stems from the value prop and what we promise to members. So we promise a highly engaged, active community of people that believe in progressive ways of doing things within that people and culture space and that really give a shit about like transparency and building a better future, building a better world of work. So almost taking each one of those components, if somebody kind of isn't that sort of mold, that's a no. If somebody's not going to be able to get the most out of the community in terms of their time commitment, that's a no. So we're quite careful on that. If somebody is like very, very traditional in their approach to their craft, that's a no. If somebody doesn't, vibe and align with our kind of longer, broader vision and mission, then that's a no, because they'll be weirded out within about 2 days probably and not really enjoy it. And if somebody is, I mean, not the obvious stuff, right? If they're just not the right fit because they're actually kind of a marketing person trying to, sneak in. I've been that guy in past life, so I know how to spot that. I think that answers your question, maybe.
Yeah, it does. It brings up a new question. So I got a couple of questions. Like, why why couldn't you just do it in a form and ask people to like fill out a type form with their answers? And wouldn't that save you a bunch of time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so we do that. So we do
Okay.
have we do that for about half of what I just said. Sorry
Hmm.
to not be clear. So
Okay.
we about half of that we get from the type form, but we didn't want to create like a massive, 20 question thing because it's just a
Right.
pain in the bum. But yeah, we get pretty good signal on half of that. But the call we get we get signal on stuff that you can't get on a type form. And
Yeah.
it's a two-way interview, right? So
Hmm.
we are we're checking the things that we need to check to make sure that they're going to have an amazing experience. And we do that for 7 minutes. And then for 13 minutes, we let them ask us absolutely anything. And we push really hard. We make sure they feel like they can ask us anything. We'll show them around. We'll screen share. They can see the quality of the responses, the time to respond. We do that. How many help requests of this kind of type? What stage? What kind of folks are asking? We like do a proper drains up behind the scenes. You go anywhere, see anything, check anything out, and we find that doing that from from that call is yeah, it's a very very high conversion to the next step. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. That is amazing. And that is again, you're full of things that I've never seen anybody do, like showing people like everything in the community before they join the community. That is not a lot of people do that. I can understand how that would inspire transparency and trust within the brand for somebody who's trying to join. Okay, and yeah, that is the onboarding process. Now, the third part of the onboarding process is the quests. And yeah, can you tell me about the quests? Or maybe like it might be better if you want to just share a screen and show me like what do those quests look like.
I can. Actually, I'll just talk to that bit
Okay,
if you
that's
don't
okay.
mind.
Yeah, yeah, that's also good.
So yeah, it's a mix of yeah. That's probably one of the things we're not. That's proper secret sauce there in its session,
Okay.
right? And how we do that as well. So for a company that is all about transparency, there are still a couple of things that we keep close to chest. But yeah, I think it's a mix here. But like so day one quests are quite basic. They're quite like just check this out, do this, make sure you've got silly, not silly, but little things like we try and make Slack as human as possible. So like up to date, like fun profile pic, essential. Like whenever I see a faceless avatar in a Slack channel, it's like I'm straight onto that. So that's a tiny. It's day one quests are kind of like that, and it's like do these things. Here's why we ask you to do those things. Here's why everyone else does those things. We kind of like explain it, and it's guided. And it's also, by the way, did you know that you can also get this, this, and this, and those change a little bit depending on the person and their goals. So, for instance,
Mhm.
somebody in their earlier type form might have said that one of the things they're really struggling with is kind of getting best practice inspiration from other progressive people leaders on how they do a particular project. So, like pay transparency or performance management or career framework design. These are the kind of people and culture projects that are really common and top of mind at the moment. So, if someone has said that, then their day one quest will also include go and check out this product we've built that makes searching for progressive policies really easy. And by the way, here are 3 examples that we think you'll really enjoy. Also, make sure you have a coffee with this person, this person, and this person because they've got some experience with those projects. So that's kind of like an example of a day one quest. It will be slightly tailored, but it would include those kinds of things. And then like week one quests will be more around making sure that they have tried at least once all of the kind of different mini products, tools, and fun stuff that we've built from the off the back of member feedback over the last few months. So it's a bit more kind of like a buffet, just to make sure they know where everything is, know how to access it, and understand like the difference between Slack and our member hub and how that works.
So you have a member hub like that is different from your Slack.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That is day one, week one, and do you have like a month one quest?
And then month one would be more around like active kind of participation. So we will flag like the upcoming round table, another connection, and the help please channel and some of the recent threads on that, and just give a little bit of a hat tip to the fact that when they joined or when they kind of applied, one of the things they said they could help other people with was X. So it's just giving a little bit of help sometimes to show where to share expertise in X.
Hmm. Wow, this is a very intricate, like this is not your usual onboarding checklist. This is a very customized and personalized list of things that I can imagine would, yeah, feel like a quest.
That's what we're going for. It doesn't scale very well in its current form, but then we kind
So
of don't
you're
need it to.
personally writing these for everybody new who's
We
joining.
have we have some templates which
Yeah,
speed things up, but a lot of
yeah.
the content, as you can imagine, is very personal. So yeah,
Yeah.
we've looked at stuff that kind of helps with that, but for our stage and size, like investing money there right now is just not appropriate, because even the ones that, yeah, we'd be hacking another category's tools, which we've already done once, and I don't think I should probably make a habit of doing it again and again. But
This is remarkable. Okay, a lot to take away from this, and you mentioned that this is your magic sauce. So I'm gonna, ask the listeners to, yeah, reach out to you if they want to learn more about this magic sauce of yours. Okay, tell me about the decision to use Slack as your community platform. So you looked at other platforms, other all-in-one community platforms, but decided that Slack is still the best. So why?
this was agonizing. I cannot tell you how difficult this decision was. It, like, literally we didn't sleep for weeks about this. I'm exaggerating, but it felt like that. It's, yeah, like it's the classic, isn't it? It's like you go where your audience is. Okay, well, I'm on Slack, but you want to build a great community. Okay, well, Slack's not really a community tool. It's like, shit. Oh, what do we do? And we looked at, all the usual suspects for the kind of non-Slack all-in-one platforms. We looked at all of the incumbents, and we looked at all of the scrappy, even the stealth ones. We sniffed them all out, and we got demos and checked it out and experimented and prototyped, and we just kept coming back to this thing, which was like all like entirely our audience. They are in Slack already. So it's like the friction there, is just zero. It's a zero. And the friction to, have another product essentially to go and log in and sign up and remember to go to, we become one of 100 tabs in a browser then. And so yeah, we just were like, no, let's not do it. We revisited that decision 4 times in the last 4 or 5 months. And still Slack wins. So I don't think we're going to revisit it again. I think we're now like, no, just let's put this to bed. We checked in with our first 50, our first 100 members as well, and the consensus was, do this, but can you make these things better? And so yeah, I would call our ecosystem like I call it Slackenstein, like Frankenstein of Slack things, because it is, but it really does work for us. And yeah, I don't think I'll go back. And I've stopped exploring other platforms now.
Yeah. So what he's saying is that the benefits of having all of those different things that these platforms promise, the all-in-one features,
Yeah,
they are outweighed by the one thing that Slack has, which is that all your members are already in it all day long.
yeah, exactly. I don't, and what I notice about these platforms building like that is they either don't care about that position, and maybe I'm the wrong ICP, like I'm maybe too small or not enough money. I don't know. But they're trying to like do things like replicate Slack functionality, but like even if you do that within a hub of all these other amazing things, like it's still not going to win on that friction and kind of presence point. And it's not just that, it's about like you don't have to learn a new tool or where other things are. So there's that kind of friction as well, which you skip on Slack, which I think for yeah, especially if you've got a community that perhaps aren't like as technology like native or literate as like an engineering community, for instance, that can be quite a big thing. We have the same struggle on even on Notion, which is like, prolific and pretty ubiquitous in startup land. We still have folks that are kind of like, this is difficult, like I've not used this before. So all of these kind of data points just kept reinforcing that initial decision. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That is what I've heard from a lot of other folks here, who are like pro Slack for their communities.
Yeah.
Okay, now the most important thing probably for this interview is the fact that you have been able to create a culture where anybody can ask a question and get like 3 to 5 high quality responses within a day, or you said like within a few hours of posting. So that, yeah, how does that happen? That is like magical.
I've not actually thought about. I'm not sure what the components are that went into that. Just give me a second. I think it's a couple of things. So early on, and to this day, Adam and I, if we can help, we will help. Which is also maybe counterintuitive advice to sort of mainstream community management, is that you're supposed to kind of get to a nirvana, aren't you? Lots of people talk about this where it's like not you doing that. I don't believe that, especially if you're running a micro community. I think your presence and your skills, if you can bring them to bear, you should. So we do that, and we did it especially in the early days. So every single help request, if we knew a thing that might help or a person that could help, we added that as quickly and as high quality as possible. Often, if we were running calls, like one of us would be secretly kind of doing that, and so we helped that there were two of us, and we still do that to this day. But the difference now is we wait. So we used to be the first in the thread, and after about a month, we stopped that and we delayed. So we still wrote what we were going to say, but we didn't send it. And that helped other people chime in. And we also have a really deeply ingrained, as I was saying earlier, set of like celebrations around our community values. And these are micro and macro. Micro is just there's a custom emoji for each core value. One of our core values is all about give back. So every time someone gives back really generously, they're celebrated by everyone with Ted Lasso's face as an emoji. And everyone knows what that means. And it's quirky, but everyone knows what that means. And so we started to do that a lot, and now that's just become the way we do things. And so, yeah, I think that those are the components that went into making that what it is now.
But even then, even just when I think about it in terms of time zones, you have 250 people there, and they'll have to be spread like all across the world, like pretty evenly, in order to give such a short response time. Like this is shorter than what you expect from most customer support teams at companies, and your community is able to do that.
So we definitely have. There are definitely like a few hours around the globe where I would be surprised if we got that same quality, but mostly, it is virtue of the fact that we're global. So even though we're two guys from the UK, we were quite surprised. Like the member base is kind of from all over, but also we both have kids. So Adam has 3 young children. I have 2 young children, and so our working patterns are actually quite strange. So Adam's usually awake at like 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. like as a working slot for him with a baby, and I work best late night, so 9 p.m. to 1:30, 2 a.m. sometimes. So I guess we've got like reasonably good sort of 18, 20 hour clock coverage. I don't, and it's not perhaps a contributing factor, but I guess that's maybe one other element to it.
Yeah, that is really cool. So I guess the main magic sauce behind delivering this engagement is the custom emojis that you're doing to celebrate whenever somebody shows like one of these core values, and that's like your appreciation, like the community's appreciation for their help.
Yeah, I think so. I always had this when I was like working in product teams. Like it was always like just a fun thing we used to do, and it just makes, I think, if you've worked in startups and companies, they spend a lot of time putting core values on a wall. This is like a very tangible way of like actually like reinforcing and operationalizing them. So I've always been a fan of it for that. And so we took that applied it to community. And yeah, it's fun, it's silly, but it also does, I think, serve like quite a deeper kind of purpose, which is like reinforcing what is expected of people and how we're trying to show up to one another. And it also, you can do some fun little stuff behind the scenes as well, where you can kind of like count, you know, who's given the most of X emoji and who's received the most of Y emoji. And there's like a little celebration and ritual of sort of awardee type thing. We haven't done much of that. I'm jury's out for me whether we will, but you always have that lever as well if you do that kind of thing.
Yeah. 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 Love that. Okay, we're getting to the end of this interview, so I'll try to be quick with my remaining three questions.
No
Um,
worries.
so the first one is these community hackathons that you said. So
Hmm.
you've taken the concept of hackathons that exists in the coding programming world that has existed like forever, and you've somehow applied it to an online asynchronous community, which is like not of programmers. Tell me, how does it work?
Yeah, sure. So there's one input to this as well, actually, which I'll just mention very quickly. One of the things that Adam and I got known for when we started the business 9, 10 months ago, not the community, the business, was we we used to, I mean, we love doing it. We'd curate like big templates in Notion of like all of the best startups and scale ups that were doing awesome kind of transparency on some aspect of their culture. We'd spend hours and hours and hours, like weekends and stuff, like curating these mega like info products basically, and then we'd give them away because we wanted more people to kind of learn how to use transparency as a lever for company building. So our mission, and so people knew us for that. People knew like it was they're the two Notion guys that do those like templates,
Yeah.
those curated open source like share with the world templates. And so we kind of had like a bit of a brand and following around doing stuff like that. We used to do other things as well, but that was how. So we kind of had it in the DNA of what we were doing anyway. And when the community started to grow, our time to do that started to lessen because we were doing all this other stuff that I was just talking to you about with onboarding and etc. But we really didn't want to lose that, and people really loved that. And so we thought, well, it would be a very unique thing if that was actually like a core component of what it meant to be a member of this community, is that not only did you like one-to-one, exchange like value, help, advice, etc., but also if the community itself as a whole delivered that value back to the broader community of all people and culture leaders. And so that was our like kernel for the idea. And then we thought, well, how would we productize or do the things that was just me and Adam together? How would that work with a large group of people? And we kind of remembered, 40 when we back in the day, 40 of us getting together in a basement with laptops, like trying to figure out a problem. And we thought that's the kind of vibe we'd like that would be really cool. And so then we were like, oh yeah, but we're not really building, like we probably can't like do proper software because like not everybody in our community is an engineer. Very few have from that background. And our products are more like info products or frameworks or playbooks or, so we took all of that together and came up with this idea around some kind of hackathon, very like build in public style within the community, and then launch it live. And how it works is we crowdsource the thing every quarter. So we have a little voting polling system driven from the most talked about like pain points in our Help Please channel, which is a really really important. We play that back with some options, and people vote and choose one. Or if it's like a thread that's just gone like and popped off, like 100 plus people have like been involved, like that's it's obvious we need to build something.
Yeah.
So we position that, and then we have a kickoff call, which is where we invite the first community member who like shared the problem originally that everyone has like vibed with. They'll give context, they'll like make it real to the rest of the people on the call, so 40-50 people usually. Then we'll just start to, as a collective, we use some like different tools and stuff on this to facilitate it so that everyone has equal voice, but we'll start to get to a place where it's like, okay, it feels like it could be this kind of thing, like it's a playbook, or it's like a video series, or it's a mini course, or it's like whatever the shape of it is, we'll agree on that first call. and that's the only face-to-face call we'll have as a group. But then that has created like a 40-person like asynchronous project team essentially, and we'll then go hit Notion or a private Slack channel and start to kind of pretty autonomously say things like, "Okay, I can do this bit. I'm going to take that. You know, I can do this bit. I'm going to take that." And version control is an absolute nightmare. We should probably be using Git or something. Honestly, I don't know why we're not actually. I just thought that. But yeah, anyway, that it feels like that. It's like this kind of this real like builder vibe for a long period of time until we're iterating and getting it right. We have some feedback loops, and then once we've got it 80-20, we do a vote. Like, is this good enough to launch to the world? We launch the world on LinkedIn. Adam does that because he's kind of got the voice there, and everybody else is, yeah, we name and celebrate everybody that contributed, no matter how big or small, on the product. So there's kind of a, yeah, there's some prestige to it now. I think it's, if you've been part of an OpenOrg community hackathon, like, yeah, in that world,
Yeah.
that's we want to make that a thing. Anyway, that's how it works.
Dude, you're like so full of these fascinating community, like you're community wizards in the true sense. And yeah, I think I I have to ask you about your inspirations. And while I was doing some digging for this interview, I saw your LinkedIn and you said like you had on deck in there, and you mentioned that
Yeah,
that is where you learned about great community onboarding, operations, and
yeah.
experience, like how to deliver those things. So what did OD50 teach you about all of these things?
It was it was just it was a great learning experience. Like it was like a triple A cohort based learning experience. They did all sorts of good things. It was like I think it was like the bare bones of cohort based learning plus community aftercare just done really well. And that is probably, yeah, 50% of my inspiration for both the cohorts that we ran and the community that we ran came from those folks. Loads of things they did well. A few things they didn't do too well, which I again sort of put in my backpack for later. But that's they were very big on personalization. They just had really good community ops team there who, you know, the comms was stellar. It was absolutely excellent. You know, here's what's happening now, here's why it's happening, here's what's happening next, here's what you can expect, and then the follow through. So it was a lot of like mechanical process things like that, which just when you put it all together, it just felt very well done, very professionally done. And the way they interface between Slack and their bespoke knowledge hub again was well done. That they hadn't fallen into the trap of like that thing I was talking to you earlier about that a lot of the big like product sponsored communities fall into. They hadn't fallen into that trap at all. I think they built their own platform to do that in the end. Yeah, so I think like bare bones mechanics on deck, definitely. And then the other 50% of the inspiration is, yeah, from being a part of World of Warcraft guilds
Yeah,
and
tell me about that.
other online communities. But I think it's just a treasure trove of inspiration that honestly, if you can.
Like
Sorry,
as
anything else?
somebody who has not been in World of Warcraft, like paint me a picture of something that might have happened in the World of Warcraft community that you are part of, and like how you are recreating in your very professional people ops team.
There's too many. That's too hard a question.
Okay.
I'll try. No, I'll try. Two things. So one is micro, one is macro. So micro in World of Warcraft, my wife's gonna see this and just be like, "You giant nerd! I can't believe you said this in public." So when one person earns like an achievement, so they complete a quest or they do a really hard thing, they defeat like a boss or you know, I don't know, a fishing achievement or something fun. The rest of the guild all congratulate them, right? GZ, grats. Everybody, without fail, that happens. Right? That's such a simple thing. So many communities do not have a parallel to that. And that's one of 1,000 things that World of Warcraft can teach you. And being in a really well-run guild can teach you. So that's a micro point. And there are hundreds of those, right? So
Wow,
think
okay.
about that. Hundreds of those. So much value, so much gold to mine. But the on macro, like imagine the coordination and investment that goes into the fact that you've got sometimes 40 plus people that have never met in real life before, all turning up at the same time on a Wednesday evening to then spend between 4 and 6 hours together, co commonly working to achieve a shared goal and living through the pain, sometimes the excitement and the sense of urgency achievement. Like imagine the coordination to do that, and imagine the fabric you need to have weaved to make that a thing that those people look forward to. That is like that is community. That is like how I think about it. So I take from, and that example is like exactly what happens when a guild gets together to go on a raid in World of Warcraft. So for me, my parallel was how can I, like, what are the ingredients that go into that when thinking about, a hackathon that we run every quarter, or a round table that we run every 2, 3 weeks, or a guest speaker coming in. Like, how can I harness the ingredients, the way people were speaking to one another, the way that was set up, the way it's communicated, who's communicating to who, the different points of value that people are getting in that experience. How can I harness that and transfer it to community? And that is where so yeah, that without giving a without spending too much time there, because I could talk about it all day. That is the other half of my inspiration for sure.
Yeah, we probably need to schedule some time for a second interview where we discuss exclusively what have you learned from World of Warcraft about community building.
We should maybe we'll do some writing on it together. That'd be fun. You
Yeah,
can
it would
ask
be
the
fun.
questions
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, let me actually. I was thinking about the same thing. Like, it would be so cool to have like an article where that discusses the community building things that you can take away from World of Warcraft and gaming. Yeah, I love that. But hey, Jihad, this you have like completely blown my mind so many times on this interview, and this was super talking to you. And you're truly a community wizard, building all of these, amazing community experiences.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you especially for using the word wizard. I appreciate that.
And before I let you go, like, if you could leave the listeners, so the listener is somebody who's probably thinking about creating their own community, or who has maybe started their own community, but is not there yet, it's not working yet. So if you could leave them with one piece of advice, like, what would it be?
That's a good question. I think my advice is probably old advice, but the thing that has made our job a lot easier and enabled us to focus on building experience rather than worrying about other things is just how maniacally focused we are on one very niche kind of person. I'm not talking about role type necessarily, although that's part of it. Talking about mindset, what they want, where they hang out, and what they really, really need from a community. Yeah, I think doing the work there first and then staying that course, like, it's probably the one thing I would undoubtedly do again, like if I was starting afresh, because everything else is just a problem to solve after that. It's not like a risk or uncertainty or, you know, unknown. Like that just anchors everything. So that, and there are other ways to do this. I'm sure there are. And I'm not here saying I'm like super successful. I'm not. We're tiny and we're having a great time. But that is like the one thing I would say is just a massive accelerator and foundation. So yeah, that's my piece.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is a perfect note to end this interview on. Great piece of advice. Thank you so much for joining me on this call, John. And yeah, it was a blast talking to you about community.
Likewise, man. No, thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it. And thanks to folks that are listening as well. Cheers.